Hello and welcome to today's webinar, GSuite 101. This session is the first in a series of free webinars offered every month or two by the Cohoes City School District in upstate New York. I'd like to welcome everyone who's joined live and anyone who might be watching this in the future. My name is Jen Sangiacomo and I'm going to be your presenter. I'm the Instructional Technology Integration Specialist here at the Cohoes City School District. Feel free to connect with me both during and after the webinar. All of the information for this session can be found at bit.ly/CCSD002. If for some reason bit.ly is blocked for you, then you can go to the website you see below. That is the full link to the site. Hi, I'm recording a webinar, Mike. Excuse me, guys. They took over my room, so I had to go somewhere. Yes, the joys of recording live webinars. Again, if that bit.ly link is blocked for you, use the full link. That is the link to the Cohoes Professional Learning page. From there, you'll find this webinar and any others that I've already done under the recorded trainings. And since this is the first one, there are no recordings at this point. Take you quickly to that site, point out a few resources that might be helpful to you. This course obviously is for beginners, and you can see that this is the webinar that you are in now. This later will become a recorded video, so if you want to rewatch or relearn anything that you're hearing me say now, you can always come back and view it later on from this very same page. Below this, you're going to see a link to the slideshow, so you can grab that if you want, and then there's some other handy resources as well. A little bit further down, there's a live session chat document right here. So that's a way we can all communicate during this webinar. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, definitely type them in there, and I'll do my best to keep an eye on that document throughout the session, but I am flying solo today. So if you do see a question in that document and you have an answer to it or reply, feel free to put that in and help each other out. When the session ends, I will update that document with resources as needed. Below that, there's also a short session evaluation. After, please take a moment to give some feedback and help me improve these webinars. And finally, you will find a link to the quiz. Right now, there is not a link, but just give me a minute or two after the webinar and I will link in the quiz. That allows you to earn a certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour, and you can turn that into human resources for PD credit. While you're on this site, or if you get some time later, feel free to check out the other resources that are available. All right, I think that we're ready to get started. This is going to be a session on GSuite, or what was once known as Google Apps for Education. So let's take a minute and just look at the session agenda. We're going to do an overview of GSuite, talk about why you might want to use that as opposed to Microsoft Office. And then we'll also do an overview of legacy apps. Legacy apps are those that are original to GSuite for Education. There's many other apps that are available through your Google account, such as Google Calendar, Google Keep, Google Sites. There's YouTube, Google+, Google Classroom, you get the point. There's a lot out there, and those are all definitely worth checking out once you become more familiar with these core apps and how to use them. So what is GSuite? It is basically a brand of productivity and collaboration tools developed by Google. It uses Gmail, Hangouts, Calendar, and Google+ for communication, Drive for your file storage, and Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, and Sites for creation and collaboration. All these services are free, and they offer unlimited cloud storage for education accounts. Cohoes.org is an education account. So why would we want to make the switch over to GSuite for Education? First, I mentioned it's free. There's also unlimited storage, so you can keep as many documents, slideshows, even photos in your Google Drive. There's no limit to that. Most sites, if they give you unlimited or free storage, they're going to put ads. With Google for Education, there are no ads. One great thing about Google Drive and the Google products is that the data and the information, it saves automatically. So I'm sure all of us have had instances where we've had kids working on documents or presentations and they close down or they don't save it in the right place. They don't need to worry about saving it. Any change that you make in a Google Doc is automatically saved. So that's something that's going to help out the kids. GSuite is cloud-based. So what that means is that everything's stored online. So you can access your files anywhere you have an internet connection. So if you're remembering those old days, which weren't too long ago, you used to have to email yourself a file, save it on your home computer, make your changes, email that file back to yourself, and then you had to resave it over your old file. That was a lot. So now if you want to work on something from home, it's just all right there online. Google makes it easy to collaborate. Multiple users can be working on a document at once. What you'll see today is that there are uniform procedures across the Google apps. So once you become familiar with, let's say, Google Docs, you'll probably also be pretty comfortable with Google Slides because there are a lot of similar features and icons. Sharing is the same, searching is the same, revision history is the same. You'll see all that today. And finally, Google integrates with other sites. So your Google login can be used for sites like WeVideo, YouTube, and those sites will also talk to your Google Drive and grab files directly from there. So we are going to get started today with Google Drive. As we go through today's session, the goal is to provide an overview of each core app and some of its basic features. We're going to spend, about 10 minutes on each app. So to head over to your Google Drive, you can get there in a couple of ways. You do have to be logged into your Google account. So you can either access the Drive icon from the waffle. The easiest way is by typing in drive.google.com into the address bar. So I'm going to head over there. Now I'm going to a section of my Google Drive, not my main screen. Right, in Google Drive, again, this is where all your files are stored, so you can access them anywhere that you have an internet connection. Right. So we'll start with the basics. Okay, how are we going to create a file in Google Drive? This blue button that says New, if you click on that, you're going to see that you have some options. You can either start a new Google Doc from scratch. You can make a new folder. You can even upload files from your computer. You can also upload entire folders from your computer. One question I get quite a bit is, how do I upload non-Google files to my drive, or how do I get files from my H drive or my desktop to my drive? Users that are new to Google, most of your files are on a network drive or on a flash drive or a personal computer, and there's really no point in recreating the wheel when you make the switch to Google. You can upload files and folders from your desktop, your laptop, or your flash drive to your Google Drive. So formatting issues, I want to talk about that. I'm going to upload a file right now. Just grab something really quick from my computer. Grab this document. You'll see it goes pretty quick. So when I uploaded it, it did not go into Google Docs format. It went into, it's still Microsoft Word. So if I open it, I'm not going to be able to edit here because Google Drive and Microsoft Word files, they're different programs, they're different softwares. So in order to edit this, I would actually have to open this with Google Docs. And now something like this, I'm not having any formatting issues. All my formatting did come over pretty well. But one thing to be aware of is if you're converting a Microsoft Office file with different features into a Google Drive format, you may notice that some of the features in your document are not there. So for example, if you have a PowerPoint and you have some animations or transitions, those might not come over. If you have a chart or different pictures formatted in Microsoft Word, those might not translate over. Okay, but now, since it's in my Google Doc format, I will be able to edit this. And if I close this down and I come back to my drive, now you're going to notice that there are two versions of that document here. Some people don't like that. Now I can simply delete this Microsoft Word file. But another tip is, if I go to my settings, this is the settings symbol. This is the universal Google symbol for settings. It's a sprocket. And I click on settings. There is a box right here that I can check. I can decide that any file that I upload to my Google Drive will automatically be converted to a Google Docs format. So next time I upload a Microsoft Word file, it's automatically going to turn into the Google Docs version of it, and I won't have to go through that process that you just saw. So that's up to you. Now, if you're starting to get a little bit more advanced, you can go to the Chrome Web Store. I'm not going to show you that today for the sake of time. And there is an extension called the Office Editing Chrome extension. And what that would allow you to do would be able to edit Microsoft documents in your Google Drive. So if you have something that has some special formatting and it's not translating over well to Google Docs, you can still edit it. But the downside of that is you will not be able to collaborate with other people on these type of files. You'll have to convert it to a Google Doc if you want to utilize the editing functions and the collaboration features. Let's move on and talk about the best practices for accessing and organizing the files in your Google Drive. Right now, you can see that I am looking at my files. This is actually list view, and this is probably what we're used to seeing on our computer from our H drive. If I click this icon right here, I can change into grid view. Grid view gives me a little bit more visual information. It shows me what my document looks like. It's up to you how you choose to view your Google Drive. I prefer going into list view because it gives me a little bit more information about the document, telling me when it was made, who created it. So again, that's up to you. If you're having trouble finding files in your Google Drive, there's a nice search feature here, and you can type in what you're looking for. But to get more advanced, there is a drop-down arrow, and you can actually search very specifically what you're looking for. So if you know that there is a file that was shared with you and it came from a specific person, you didn't create it, you can type in the username. You can also select, maybe this is a document, you can't find it, but you know that you were looking at it yesterday. Certain words it has in it, if you shared it with someone, and then you can search. And it's pretty handy to locate the documents that you need. But obviously, it would just be better off if your Google Drive was a little bit more organized to begin with. So I highly recommend using folders. Instead of having a huge list of documents going down your Google Drive, set up some folders. And making a folder is pretty easy. Just go to this blue new button and click on folder, and then you have a new folder. And within folders, you can create subfolders. So when I click on my Social Studies Department meetings folder, I have one for 2017, one for 2016. It's going to keep me more organized. I can even color code my folders. So if I right click on the folder, I can change that color. Color coding might be really helpful to color code certain types of files you're working with. Maybe green might be shared files if you're working in the elementary school. Maybe blue folders are going to be your social studies folders. Green folders are going to be your science folders, right? And it's very easy to drag folders. So if you're not starting off being, if you're not really organized right now and you're trying to get organized and you want to create a folder, and it's very easy just to drag those resources into the folder. So if I want to put this exit pass document into my Global 9 coursework, click and hold it, and I can just drag it right there, and it's gonna go there. So it's pretty simple to get organized. The other suggestion I have is consider having some sort of file naming convention. By that, I mean, if I teach 4 different courses and I have a folder for each course, Global 9, US History 11, Economics. If I have a syllabus for each course, I probably don't want to name each document syllabus, because if I need to find it and I search for the word syllabus, I'm going to come up with 3 different documents, and I'm going to have to click on each one to figure out which one I'm looking for. So when you name your documents, consider naming them, Global 9 syllabus, US History syllabus, and maybe even putting a year, if it's specific to a year that you're working on. Again, if you name something and you realize it's not an appropriate name, you can just right-click it and you can rename that file. One of my favorite features in Google Drive is the ability to star documents. To star a document, I'm going to show you what it does. You would right-click on it and you would say add a star. So why would you star a document? Let's say there was something that you're working with, and you're working with it every single day, and it's buried deep within different subfolders, and you don't want to fish it out every day. Put a star next to it. Then over here on the left, if you look at starred, this is going to be all your documents that you've said are important. So instead of having to sift through your drive to find what you're working on, all you do is come to the starred page, and then here's that document I just starred, and I have quick, easy access to it. If I decide that this isn't a document I'm really working on anymore, I can just remove the star, and it's still back where I left it. Here, it doesn't go anywhere. Right, for each document, if you right-click on that document, there are several options. You can preview the document, you can open it, and if you download different apps, you can open it within different apps. You're probably not seeing all of these. We have some sharing options here, which we're going to come back to momentarily. You can move it to another folder, but again, I suggest dragging and dropping is the best option. You can label it important for easier access. You can rename it. You can make a copy. So maybe if you're sharing with someone else and you don't want them to mess up your copy, make a copy and send them that copy. You can even download that file if you need, and then on the bottom you can remove. Now, any document that you remove, come back here, going to delete that document. Let me delete this one. Since Google Drive is free, you only get 30 days once you delete something to grab it out of your trash. So if I go into my trash and I find something that was not supposed to be deleted, all I would do is right-click and I can restore it. Go back to my star, go back to my drive here. Right. Also, if I click on a document here, I can view the details of that document. So it will show me everything I need to know about that document. What folder is it in? When's the last time it was modified? If I look at activity, it'll show who did what to the document. So that gives all the information about the document. And let's talk about sharing. This is one of the best features of Google, is the ability to share documents and collaborate with others. So I have 2 sharing options, and if I right-click, you see them right here. There's share, and then there's get shareable link. People call this a hard share. You see the plus sign and a person. This is when you want to share a document just with like 1, 2. I mean, you can share it with any number of people, but when there's a specific list of people that you want to share the document with, you would use this option. And then there is Get Shareable Link. So let's talk about the share first. So if I press the share button, all I would do is just type in the names of the email and basically people's email address that I want to share it with. And I'll put one in here. And then I choose what level of access do I want them to have. The most secure option is the can view. So that would mean that the person could look at my document, they could make a copy of it for themselves to edit, but they really can't do much more than that. Can comment means that same as can view, except that person can leave comments in my document. And finally, can edit. This is the least secure option, but also the best option if you're collaborating. This allows the person to make changes to your document. So if I am truly trying to collaborate with someone, I would probably want to use this option. When I share with someone, Google will automatically send them an email unless I uncheck this box. I can get a little bit more advanced. There's a link right here that says advanced, and I can decide if I would like to prevent, since I'm giving GStaff training permission to edit, I can prevent that person from changing access or adding new people. Because once I give someone permission to edit, I'm also giving them permission to share that document with others, so I can check that box. If I gave someone permission to view, I could also disable options to download, print, and copy. I cannot do that for people I give editing access, but I can do that for people I give comment and view access. So maybe if I'm sharing some sensitive student information or behavior data, and I don't want anyone copying that or downloading it, maybe I would check that box. So I'm gonna say okay, and I'm not gonna send a notification because people are gonna get bogged down. Hit done. And you'll notice that once I share that, this little icon shows up here, and that's telling me that I'm sharing this document. Now, my other option is to do a shareable link. So if I want to not share with a specific person, but I want to post this maybe to a website or Schoology, or I want to email a link to this document, I would go to Get Shareable Link, and I would turn my link sharing on, and it's automatically set that anyone at your domain will be able to view the document, but I can go into sharing settings and I can change that. I could say anyone with the link, so meaning if maybe they have a Gmail account, they're not a member of cohos.org. I can change that. I can also change what people with that link can do. So that's going to be up to you. Now you can share a link with, you can share this document with specific people and have those people edit, and you can have a shareable link where those people can only view. So you can do both. So I'm going to save that. And if I go back into advanced, you'll notice that I have some options. I can just, if I decide Google staff training, I don't want them to have the right to edit, I can change right from there. I can also set an expiration. So if they're only needing to work on this document for a period of like maybe this week, I can change that so that they don't have access to that for an infinite amount of time. So at the end of 7 days, they won't be able to access that. So let's say that I'm looking at my drive and I did not mean to share this document. Somehow accidentally it's being shared and I don't want it to be shared. I'm gonna right click on that and I'm gonna go back to share. And if I click on advanced, I can X out Google staff training and I can save those changes and then press done. But you'll notice that the icon is still here because it's also shared through a link. So again, if I go back to my Get Shareable Link, all I do is I turn my link sharing off, and now this is not a shared document anymore. All right. Speaking of shared documents, when someone shares with you any file that's shared with you goes into your shared with me folder. And a lot of people don't like to look at the shared with me folder because it is a mess. And all the shared with me folder or section of Google Drive is a list of all of the files that have been shared with you to use. There's no way to organize this. You cannot make a folder within this. So you really have two options, or three. Some people just choose not to look at it. Another option that you have, if you right click, you would either add this to your drive, okay, or you can make a copy. So talk about the difference. If you make a copy, you're creating your own version of that document. So if someone's sharing something with you and you're afraid that they might remove your access or they might delete the document, you can make your own copy of the document. Maybe a coworker created a quiz or a test and you want to modify it and make your own version, make a copy of it, and then you can make changes. The one thing I will say about when you make a copy is, if, let's say, Janet, if I make a copy and Janet changes this document, my copy will not reflect those changes. So if there's a document that I'm working on with somebody and I want to keep a live version of it, instead, what I would do is I would want to move this, or I'd want to, for example, add this to my drive. So by doing that, you see I get this option to organize. I can choose where in my drive I want it. And now, say I want it in my building resources. I'm going to X this out because I really don't want it in there. Now I'm going to have access to this in my drive and I can organize these files where I want. However, they are still going to stay in your shared drive. So again, best options here would be to move this into your drive or make a copy. And another easy way to move this into your drive, again, use this little drop-down arrow. I'm going to see all my different folders, and I can move this into a folder just like this. You see how I can drag this in? I'm going to move this into district documents, building resources. So now it's been moved into this folder. However, it's still here because it's still a document that's shared with me. I'm going to take a look at the webinar Q&A doc, monitor that. No questions on there yet. I see a few people working in that. So no questions on Drive. If you have a question, use that Q&A doc. All right, we're going to go over to Google Docs. Google Docs is probably the most used of the apps. So how do you create a document? There are several ways to make a new Google Doc. You can, in the address bar, type in docs.google.com. You can go to your waffle and find the Docs icon, or you, from your drive, press that new button and do a new Google Doc. I'm going to title my Google Doc Google Docs Manual. And along my top row, you see that it says Untitled Document. If I click in there, it's automatically going to name my document the first line. However, if I don't like that title, I can rename it. You'll also see I have an option to star this if this is something I know I'm going to be working with quite a bit. And I also can move this into a folder, any folder that I want if I don't like where it is. You're also going to notice that the icons in this toolbar are very similar to what you're used to seeing in Microsoft Word, so that should help. And you'll also notice there are quite a bit of options within the toolbar, and we don't have time to go through all of those today, so we're going to go through the features that you're going to use the most. So let's talk about our collaboration aspect. Okay, right up here in this corner, you're going to see comment and share. Right now, I'm not sharing this document. It's only, any document you create automatically is just, it's private unless you share it. So if I want to share this, notice that I'm getting the same screen that I'm getting if I try to share a file in Drive. So if I want to share this with GStaff Train, again, I'm going to give them access, and I choose their access level. I can add them a note. I can notify them. I'm just going to send that along, and they'll get an email that I shared that document with them. Right. A really good way to collaborate people within a document is the comment feature. See this comments box right here? Making a comment is pretty easy. There's, one of the great things about Google Docs and Google products is that there's more than one way to do something within the document. So to make a comment, I'm going to highlight Google Docs. And you'll notice to the right, this comment icon popped up. So I can click on this if I want. I can click on comments. I can click here, or I can right click and do comment. All right, so I'm going to make a comment here. Please add some topics for the manual. So here's my comment. Now, the issue with this is that this comment is only going to be seen by someone who opens up this document. So if I'm collaborating with students or coworkers on a document and I want them to see the additions that I made, instead of doing a comment, I'm going to do what's known as a direct comment. So I'm going to just edit this comment. And to do a direct comment, all you do is type in the plus sign, and you're not going to do any space after that. You're going to type in the email address of the student or teacher that you would like to see this comment. So I'm going to tell Google Staff Training that I would like them to add some topics for the manual. I'm going to press save. And now what's going to happen is that GStaff Train is going to get an email directing them to come to this, that they have a comment in this document and they should come back and they should take a look at it. And then when they come back, we can collaborate and talk within the document. They can reply, they can make their changes. So this is a great way to communicate with your students. And I know some teachers within our district that they're actually looking at students' essays as the students are typing, and the kids love that. Right, you can insert images into your Google Docs. So I'm going to go to this insert menu, and you can see there's a lot of different things that we can put in here. Okay, very similar to what you see in Microsoft Word. Okay, your image options, you can upload something from your computer. You can take a shot with your Chromebook, with your webcam. You can grab stuff directly from your Google Drive, or since this is Google Docs, it all integrates with Google Search, we can actually search Google. So I'm going to type in Google Docs. And one of the really nice features of this image search in Google is that all of these images are free to use. They've been labeled for reuse under the Creative Commons site. So I know that any image that I grab out of here is not copyrighted, and I'm able to use that. So I'm going to click on an image that I want. And now I can also change the color scheme if I want. So if maybe I want something that's more black and white, and this isn't giving me what I want, maybe if I want something blue. Right, and I'm going to select this and I'm going to insert it into my document. If I want to change the size, I just drag from the corner. And notice that Google Docs isn't really the easiest in terms of formatting and moving pictures around. So if you're looking to do a newsletter or a publication, I suggest that you look into using Google Drawings. But again, you can resize it, you can wrap the text with it, you can break the text with it. But again, as you're seeing, it's not the easiest. You can also make your document more interactive by hyperlinking. So If I highlight Google Docs, I can insert a link by clicking on this chain icon. And I can either copy and paste a specific link, but since again, this is integrated with Google Search, Google just did a search on Google Docs for me. So I can actually take one of their suggestions and insert it and then apply it. So now my document is, going to be a little bit more interactive for students and for other people. One of the other features in Google Docs, and this is also in Slides and Sheets as well, is the Explore tool. So down in the bottom right, you're going to see this icon. When I hover over, get the Explore. And what Explore will do is it's kind of scanning my document, and it's going to show me information related to the topic. So it's going to give me some images that I might want to put in. Also, some research. So this is telling me with Google Docs, I can create text documents right within my web browser, no special software. If I wanted to add research from that site, I could actually insert this text here. And what it's doing is it's actually creating a footnote for me, and it's citing that. So this is great for research. Now, if I wanted to actually go to that site, I could click on it and I could read more. So if you're having students do research papers and they're writing about a topic, it's very easy for them to go explore their topic more in depth. Another great feature of Google Docs is the revision history feature. Google tracks every single change you make within a document. So I know there's been times I've been working in Microsoft Word where I deleted something and I accidentally pressed the save button and I couldn't get my work back. That's not the case with Google. Every change you make, you can access through your revision history. So I'm going to click on the See Revision History. I haven't done many revisions, but it'll show me this document was created at 1029 by me. And if I click this arrow, it's going to give me all the details that happened. So at 1029, I typed Google Docs. At 1034, I inserted a picture. At 1035, I changed the picture. All right, and then finally at 1036, I inserted this. And it's showing that these are the changes I made. It's actually highlighting for me, and when I hover over it, it's telling you who made those changes. So if you're working on a shared document with students, you can actually see what changes that they made. Something else that's very useful is I can restore any of these changes. Delete that. So I can either restore to a past revision if I want. So if I wanted to actually go back here, if I wanted to just go back to this blank document, I can click to restore right back to this plain version. Now, if I didn't mean to do that, I can still go back into my revision history and I can restore any version that I want. Something else that's useful is I go back here and I click this, I can copy and paste, Control C to copy. I can, if I just lost one sentence that I want or one paragraph and I don't want to restore to a past version, I can just copy and paste from past revisions. If you're working with students, this is really handy because sometimes they lose stuff, or if they're collaborating with others, sometimes someone accidentally deletes something. Everything can be saved within your Google Drive and your Google Docs. And what's great is if you are working with students who aren't playing nice, you're going to know exactly who deleted the information. So there's accountability there as well. Now, as a bonus, before we move on, there is an add-ons tab. If you're familiar with the Chrome Web Store, it's kind of like extensions, only it's specific to Sheets, Forms, and Docs. They're just third-party add-ons that enhance the app. So this is something you might want to go explore on your own time. I put a little bit more information on the webinar resource page, but there's things like spell check or grammar check, writing reviser, lots of cool add-ons that you can get and you can explore. All right. Please review the direct comment feature I'm seeing. So before I move on, Kim asked for me to review that. So I'm just going to go through that again. If I want to make a direct comment, again, I highlight the section I'd like to work with someone on. I can press this link, this comment button right here, and just type the message, please add topics for the manual. And then to do the direct comment, I'm going to do the plus sign and then no space after that. I'm going to just start typing the email address. And I'm going to do, since Kim asked me to do this, I'm going to just type in her email address so she can see. And I am going to comment there. I do need to share that with her first, obviously, so Google will do that for me. All right, and now Kim should be getting an email shortly that tells her that, you know, she has this document and I'd like her to add to it. So there you go. I'm gonna close that down and let's move on to slides. Slides is Google's version of Microsoft PowerPoint. So if you want to create a presentation in class or you want to create content for your students to review at home, Slides is pretty good, and it is a little bit more, it can be a little bit more interactive than Google Docs because you can put video into there. So how you're going to create a presentation, it's basically, you know, I'm going to start to sound like a broken record as I go through these apps, but you have all these different options. You can go to slides.google.com. Basically, to access any Google app, it's the app.google.com. So slides.google.com will take you to Slides. You can get Slides from your waffle here, there it is, or directly from your drive. You can do a new Google slide. Another option is you could do a file upload and you could upload a PowerPoint presentation and convert it into a Google slide, and you could edit something. You know, why recreate a presentation? Just upload a presentation you have and then just edit it and fix the formatting. So I'm going to start a new Google slide. All right, and you're going to notice very similar features that you saw with Docs. You have the comment, the share, same similar icons, file. We see, you know, revision history. We haven't made any revisions yet, so that's why that's ghosted out. But basically the same tabs, very similar icons that are just standard across the Google apps, and same collaboration features. Same, you know, you're going to have the same, if I close this down, same explore tool. And so again, once you get used to one, it'll be easier to use the other apps. So let's talk about customizing your slideshow. I'm going to type a title in here. Intro to Google Slides. And again, if I click in my untitled presentation box, it's going to name that for me. Right, and then I get some options to customize the look. So if I click background, so here are my options: background, layout, theme. If I click on background, I can pick a color or an image as a background for my slide. Theme, this lets me select what I want my slides to look like. So maybe I can come pick this theme out. So when I pick a theme, all my slides will look like that, but I can also, you know, change backgrounds on specific slides. If you know, the Google Slides backgrounds, their themes, they're pretty limited. I mean, there might be like 20 of them, maybe 15. So if you're looking for some more dynamic themes, the website Slides Carnival has some pretty nice looking themes. So if you go back to the webinar page, I did put a link for Slides Carnival. The slide layout also, if I want to change the layout of this slide, and this is how, maybe this is a title screen, so this is fine, but we'll talk about changing your layout. If I want to add a slide, this plus button right here, and when I click on the plus button, it selects the layout for me. So if I don't like that layout, I can just change the layout to any other different kind of layout. Or when I go to add a slide, if I click on this drop down arrow here, I can pick my layout before I add the slide. So those are some options for that. I can drag a slide to reorganize it. So if I wanted this slide to somehow come first, I can just move this around. One student question that comes up a lot is how do I delete a slide? If you right click on this menu, you can just delete something if you didn't need it. If I really like the layout of this and the font that I've already put into here, I can right click and I can duplicate a slide to save some time. I can even take slides from other presentations and I can copy and paste them into this area right here. Google Slides, just like PowerPoint was, gives you the option to make your slideshow pretty impressive. So let's talk about this insert menu and what you can do. You can add your own text box if you don't like the layout of the slide. Pictures, different charts you can make. See word arts, shapes, symbols. You can also add video. So inserting an image is basically the same as you do in Docs, but let's look at how to insert a video. Or what it's going to do is it's going to search YouTube. YouTube and Google, they're all in the same company, so this will search YouTube for you. So like, let's say that I want to do an informational video on Google Slides. Right, it's going to go through just like it was a YouTube search and give me all the videos relating to that. It gives me a little description. It tells me how long it is. I can also preview the video right from here to see what it is. So if I want to insert this particular video, let's do this one, how to make a beautiful presentation in slides. I click here, I just select, and there it goes, and I can drag this, make this take up the entire screen. And one of the really nice things about Google Slides, unlike PowerPoint, is this video will play directly in my slides presentation. It won't need to open up an internet browser and go to YouTube, and it's already embedded, so you're probably not going to have issues with lag time and streaming. Now, if I right click on this video, this is something that just got added this spring. I have some options here. So let's say that this video is too long and I only want to show a segment of the video. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do this in class where you have a 40-minute video and you just want to show like the 20-minute mark to the 30-minute mark. When you skip ahead to the 20-minute mark, it has to buffer, and that can take a while. You can actually specify right here that I only want to play the first 1 minute of this video. And when it starts in your slideshow, it'll only play that stretch. So that's a pretty nice feature. And for kids that are doing presentations and they're putting videos in, and you don't really want them showing like a 10-minute video in their presentation, this is a good feature to show them. If I want to do a text box, I'm going to resize this. Just go to my insert menu, go to my text box feature. How to make your slideshow beautiful. And again, I highlight my text, and here's all my text options up here. Yeah, I can change the font. I can change the size of it, center it if I want. So here I have this text box. Maybe I want to do an outline. Maybe I want to do a border here to my text box. I can also decide I want to fill that text box, make it look a little bit nicer. And I can also insert lines and shapes. So maybe if I want to do an arrow, again with my arrow, I can change the color of it. I can change the thickness of it. Right, and then it makes my, just makes my slides look a little bit nicer. Right, another tip is if you have a lot of content on a slide and, maybe, let's say here, I want this video to actually be in front of the arrow. I don't want this arrow to show on my video or my picture. I can actually right click on my image or my video and I can say I want to bring that to the front. So now my arrow actually goes behind it. If I don't like the look of that and I want my arrow to come to the forefront, I right click, I press order, and then I can bring that to the front. So you can use that right click and the order to put things in the front or in the back or vice versa. Right, and then finally, you have this Explore tool, and maybe if you want to learn more about Google Slides, you can type in Google Slides, and it'll tell you a little bit more. So same thing as with your Google Docs. It'll give me images specific to Google Slides. Right, sometimes it even will pick out, if I hadn't picked out a background color, it'll also suggest backgrounds for me. So another nice feature that's there. And then you have your present button. So when you're actually presenting the slideshow in class, instead of showing this screen, you would actually move to a present so that students could see this in full screen. I'm just going to check that help document. I don't see any questions on slides, but these, again, this is just the basics on how to create a slideshow. All right, we're going to move on to forms. Forms is definitely, it's one of my favorite Google apps. You can use forms for surveys. You can collect student information. You can even make a form a quiz that grades itself. You can use it for homework assignments. And kids like doing surveys, and it's a really nice interface. It's pretty easy to make a form. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Creating a form, again, the same as the other two. You can go to the waffle, you can go to forms.google.com, or you can create a form. If I click on this more option, you can create a form directly from your Google Drive, but I actually going to show you what it looks like when you type in the forms.google.com. Oh, this is just a home page for all of my Google Forms. These are all the Google Forms that I have made that I have in my Google Drive. So you can see I do actually use forms quite a bit to gather information and survey people. And I have some options here. I can start a brand new form, or I have the option of using a template, so something that's already been designed for me. Since we're new to forms, what I prefer is to actually start from scratch so you can actually see how to construct a form. I'm going to go click blank. All right, and the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to title your form. So I'm going to call this Hunger Games Chapters 1 through 10 Survey. And there is a form description area. This is optional. You don't have to type anything in, but if you want to type instructions to your students or let them know what they're supposed to be doing, this would be the spot where you would do that. Again, just like the other two apps we talked about. If I click Untitled Form, it's going to name it automatically the title of the form. You're going to see I can move this to a new folder. I can star this. All right, so again, same features. Let's talk about changing the background and customizing the look of your form. So this color palette right here, if I click on this, I can change this to any one of these colors. So let's do a nice bright blue. But you can also pick a theme. So let me show you what's available. Right, Google has all these different banners that you can look at. So up to you. I'm just going to search through these so you can see what's there. Food and drink, birthday, there's holiday themes, work and school. Right here, I'm doing a Savannah book. Maybe I can pick this image. I also can upload a photo from my computer or from my Google Drive as a banner if I'd like to be a little bit more custom. All right, so there it changes the theme, and it also changes this color. If I pick a theme, I have to go with the color that it gives me. So let's talk about your question types. Let's start with my first question. And let's talk about what type of questions you can put in a form. All right, so you have a short answer paragraph. These are just, extended responses that students might do. And then there are the more subjective responses. So you can do multiple choice. Multiple choice will allow a student to only pick one answer from the list. Checkboxes allow students to pick multiple selections, and the drop-down creates a drop-down menu, and again, only one choice can be made from the drop-down menu. So if you're looking to quiz students or get a specific answer, multiple choice and drop-down are the best. But if you want more of a survey and you want students to just tell you, their opinions, checkboxes are a good option. Leave this one alone for now. You can ask students, on a scale from 1 to 5. You do those types of questions, dates and times, and then these two. These are a little bit more advanced, so we're just going to stick to the basics right now, and then you can play around with these a little bit later on your own time. So I'm going to type in a question first. Let's see. Do you agree? Right now, Google knows the type of question I'm wanting to ask, so it's already determined for me that multiple choice is the best. But if I don't want to use that, I can change it. I could make it a short answer, I could make it a drop down, but I'll keep it as a multiple choice. And here would be where I would type in my choices. But you'll notice right here that Forms is trying to look into what my question is and what my possible answers might be. So it's actually made suggestions for me. So I can add all of these. Now, if I don't want one of these, all I would do is go next to the maybe, and I can remove that. If I'm copying a test or a quiz from a Google Doc, I can actually highlight and paste. I can copy and paste all of the choices into one box, and it will separate them for me. So that's a nice feature of it as well. All right, I'm going to select required. You want to make sure you do that when you do a form, because otherwise students will be able to submit their response without answering all the questions. So make sure you just switch over this required button. If I want to add additional questions, just use this plus button right here. Then I can type in another question. If I don't want that question, I can just delete it. I can also duplicate questions if I'd like. If you want to preview your form, this eyeball button right here lets you see what the form would look like to your students. Close that down. And giving forms like this is a good way to start discussions in class. Maybe at the end of class, you have students fill out this information and you start the next class by discussing the data from the survey. Let's talk about form settings. Again, here's the sprocket. This is the universal symbol in Google for settings. So you have some options here. If you're looking to actually get data and you want to make it anonymous, you would not check this box. But if you want to make sure that every student has submitted to your survey, you would check to collect email addresses. You can also restrict a survey to Cohoes city school users. So, that way students couldn't pass the survey on to their friends. One thing though, if you're just having students starting out with Google, this might be something you want to uncheck, because students might not always be signed into their Google accounts, and then they might get confused when the warning comes up that they need to sign in. So that's going to be up to you. The limit to one response button is something that is useful. You don't want students skewing your survey results or submitting, 3-4 different versions of your survey. So you can limit to one response. However, if you do that, you're going to have them sign in. But if you're sending them a link through, Schoology or through Google Classroom or through their Gmail, they're probably going to be signed in, so it's not an issue. And then you have some options. Do you want them to be able to edit their response after they submit? Do you want them to be able to see what their classmates said? That's going to be up to you. For the presentation, do you want to shuffle the question order? And you can also customize a confirmation message. So after they've submitted the survey, you can say, thank you, please return to your Google Docs, or, please log off the computer. And then this is something down the road to look at. You can actually turn any of your forms into quizzes, where you would type in your answers. You would say how many points each question is worth, and you can even mark what the correct answer is, and Google Forms will score it for you. So that's something to look into down the road, but this is a pretty handy feature as well. So I'm just going to save. And let's talk about how do you get your form out so that somebody can take your form. The most common mistake that I see is that people who are working on their form will take this link right here and they will send it to their students, and they'll post that on Schoology. What the issue with that is right here you see the words edit. What you're doing is you're actually posting the link for people to be able to edit your survey. So when they get to your survey or your form and they go to press an answer, they're actually going to be editing your form. So you don't want that. So you have two options. The first option is press this preview button. This is your link that you could copy and paste. And notice it ends in view form, because that's what they're doing. You want them to actually view their form. But the easiest way is when you're ready to pass on that survey, the send button will do that. And you have a couple of different options. You can actually email directly to your students. So I can put in GStaff train. If I had a group, let's say I made a group called principals. I want all the principals to take it. Okay, so if you create contact groups in your Gmail, we'll talk about that later, like period 1, you want your period 1 to take this, you can do that. And delete these so they don't go to the principals. And so you have different options here. You can include a message when you send that survey to them, and even opt to include that form in an email, so they don't even have to click out of their email to take the form. They can just answer the survey directly from their email, which is a pretty nice feature. Next to this mail icon, there's also a link icon. So I can copy and paste this link and I can put it on Schoology, or I can send it in an email. Up to you. And another nice feature is, since this is a big, huge, ugly link, I can press shorten URL, and then I get a little bit of a cleaner link that I can copy. All right, and I'm actually going to take this form. Let's see. Let's say I say no. Okay, my response has been recorded. Now I go back to my form, and here it is, this one response. I have one response in it, tells me that. And what it'll do is actually, for each question, it'll create a nice little visual for me. If I take this survey again, I can't because I said it can only be filled out once, but as results come in, these graphics are going to change. And this is really cool. I can show my class, how their classmates felt, and that can generate a pretty nice discussion. I can also look what individual students responded. So that's great. And I also can create a Google spreadsheet. So if I'm collecting specific data and then I want to put it in a spreadsheet and sort the information, maybe I'm collecting student information, like I'm asking students, what's your home phone, what's your email, where are you, what periods do you have study hall, all right, and then I can have it in a nice Google sheet. I can create a new Google sheet, and here's my data there. So this is something cool to get started with. Students love answering survey questions because really when you give them surveys, you're telling them that their opinion counts and their feedback matters, and you can learn a lot that way, especially for students that are shy or might not want to share out in class, and can be great for a check for understanding piece at the end of class. So definitely something to consider trying. All right, so I'm going to go back to my drive. Let's get back to that section. All right, and let me get into Google Sheets. Google Sheets is Google's version of Microsoft Excel. It's an online spreadsheet. You create a Google Sheet the same way you would Google Docs, slides, or forms. I'm going to open an existing spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you some ways that you might start making use of sheets in your classroom. Let me do this one. By now, you're probably starting to recognize some commonalities across Google Apps in terms of the tab menus and the toolbars, and you got your similar icons here and your sharing buttons. So all the same collaboration options that you have in slides and docs, you also have in Sheets. So you can see that this is a basic student information sheet. And before I go any further, in case you couldn't tell from the names, this is not real student data. Looking at the column headings, this particular sheet summarizes just basic student grades and information. Sheets doesn't need to be this narrow in scope though. You can use it as a student grade book. You can use it, I've seen it used to track behaviors and do some progress monitoring. You can just use it to create a database of information. And when we took the Clarity survey, a lot of students had reported that they don't really track data or analyze data, and Sheets would be great to start honing in that skill. So, in social studies, a student could create a database that details demographics for different countries. You could have science students start recording the results of their experiments in Google Sheets. In ELA, students could create a database of characters from a book that they're reading. So basically, like in all cases, you could perform an analysis on any of the data that you put in here. There's a lot of uses for this app, and it's probably one of the more underutilized apps in GSuite at this time. So I want to go through, I picked out 6 key features of Sheets that I'd like to show you. We're going to start with formulas. And if you're familiar with Excel, using Sheets should be a pretty easy transition. A lot of people complain that they don't believe that feature from Excel exists in Sheets, but it does. It just might be called something else, or it might be located somewhere else. So again, it's just getting used to it. So let's go with formulas. Again, Sheets should be an easy transition if you're familiar with Excel. So this is true for formulas as well. So I'm going to click into a cell. I'm going to title my column average. And let's say I want to get an average for the students' 6th grades through 8th grade year. I click into the first cell and I press the equal button. And if I want an average, what's really nice about Google is if I start typing in the word average, it knows what I want. And it tells me for each function or formula what it is. So Here's the numerical average in a data set. What's average A? Oh, this tells me this. This is the one I want. And since I want to get the 6th grade through the 8th grade average, I want E2 through G2. And you'll notice what it does is it highlights for me the cells that I wanted to include. So it's just a nice visual check that I'm doing the right formula. So now this student's average, Billy Bob, he had an average of 92 for all 3 years. You do not need to repeat that process for each cell. If you drag this blue box in the corner all the way down, you can copy the formula to the other cells. One of my favorite functions, it's kind of just a cool function, is called a trend line. So I'm gonna show you what it does. Say progress here. I'm gonna go to, again, equal sign. This actually is called a spark line. It basically is making a visual of the cell. So again, I want to see a visual chart of how the student had progressed through their 6th through 8th grade years. And you can see it actually creates a little line graph of their progress. So Billy Bob, from 6th to 8th grade, his average has been going up. I'm gonna copy this, drag this, and copy this down. And I mean, this is a really nice visual. Instead of looking through each data and checking and looking and seeing how the students' grades have progressed, this spark line gives me a visual here. So I can see that, Brooke, I might need to watch her because her grades have been steadily declining. So I wanna definitely monitor and see what's going on with that. All right, and there are tons of formulas and functions that you can do within Google Sheets. Check out that session page. There's a link that kind of explains all the formulas that you can do. Another cool feature is conditional formatting. So I want to show you that. What conditional formatting does is it will color code your sheet based on the criteria that you set. So I'm going to come through here. I'm going to highlight these cells and going to go to format, and I'll see the option for conditional formatting here. So in this range, it's telling me the range that I selected. I want to format the cell so that any student that has less than a 65, their cell turns red. And I'm also going to do any student that has greater than an 89. I want their cell to be, I'm going to do a nice bright green here. Right? And now what you're going to see is my sheet has highlighted for me. So I can see these students are really excelling that are in green. Nice, again, a nice visual. And these students have been struggling. So that's good for a test, any test or quiz or student data. Just quickly identifies for you what students may need help. Okay, I can sort my data. So if I want to sort this column by average, or actually maybe I want to sort by who has the best overall average in grades 6 through 8. I have some options here to sort my sheet. I have my first row frozen, but one thing you'll want to make sure is that you go to view and you freeze a row. So I'm going to freeze one row, and that's this row. If I don't freeze a row and I sort my sheet, then this row is going to be also sorted. So I'm going to sort from highest average to lowest average. So now, I can do that as well. And there's other options here to pursue. You can actually filter your data. I'm not going to get into that, but I could actually create filters where I just want to see the results of the females in class. That's something to look into as well. Right, one of the best features of this app is its ability to visually represent your data in a variety of ways. So let's check that out in action. Let's say I want to look at my absence data. I'm going to highlight the data that I'd like to display graphically. All right, so maybe I want to see what's going on with absences and also the average. I have a couple options. I can insert a chart. I can go to this insert menu and do chart, or here's that handy dandy explore tool again. And it's giving me some charts that I might want to insert. So here's absences in 6 through 8 compared with their average in grade 6 through 8. All right, it also tells me information about my data, like Joe has the highest value of absences. All right, and also there's a chart here, and it's basically showing me that there is a negative correlation. The more absences that you have, the lower your grade is. So this is basically creating, all the charts and graphs that I might ever want to display, and I can insert this into my document. See this plus button? I can insert this right here. I can move it down, and I can do a lot with this chart. I can save this as a picture. I can copy this chart into a Google Doc or into a presentation that I'm working on. I can actually create a different sheet. I can edit the headings. So, I mean, there's quite a bit here that you can do. You can even ask a question about your data. Google will even come up with questions that you might not have even thought to ask. So, if I click on color instead, I want to know what the student's favorite color is. There it gives a pie chart. If I want to ask a question about color, supported. Let me go through back here. Go back to my explore button. It'll come up with questions like this. Compare the average 6th grade average for gender, male and female. Right, and it'll show me that as well. So I can get my answers with a chart. All right, it's telling me this data that in 6th grade, basically the females' average were better than the males' average. Right, if you're using Google Sheets to track student information, things that might be sensitive, or if you have information that you don't want to be compromised, you can use a feature known as protecting your data. So let's say that I want to share this with my coworkers, but I don't want any of this data. Or maybe they can change some of it, but I don't want them to change any of their averages. So I'm going to highlight the range I want to protect. I'm going to go to my data tab and then protected sheets and ranges. All right, I can decide that I want to protect this entire sheet. I don't want anyone typing into this sheet at all, or I can just protect this range. So they can, they can change student names, others they can type in, they can add, their own data into the sheet. But I'm going to name this range grades, and then I can set permissions. So my permission is I can do one of two things. I can either warn people about editing this range. So if they type into it, it'll say, be careful, this might compromise the data of the sheet. Or I can restrict who can edit this range. So maybe only I can edit this range. Maybe myself and G-staff train, if I'm working in guidance, maybe just other guidance counselors. And then what's going to happen is if someone else looks at the sheet and they try to edit or try to type in that range, it will not allow them to do that. Also within Sheets, if anybody edits my sheet, I can get a notification if I turn it on. So going into Tools and Notification Rules, I can say that any changes that are made, I want to be notified. And I can decide, do I want an email at the end of the day that summarizes those changes, or do I want to know right away if someone's changed this sheet? And you're not going to do that with all your spreadsheets, but those with sensitive information, or if you just want to know if somebody contributed something to the sheet, you can get a notification. And I'll press done. So that wraps up our segment on sheets, and let's move on to our next and our final topic, and that is Gmail. Right, Gmail is probably the app that you are using the most. And so to access your Gmail, right, you can go to mail.google.com. You can get it from your waffle in different ways. Even some of you have a desktop icon that gets you into your Gmail. You might notice that my Gmail looks a little bit differently than yours does because I'm using what's known as a priority inbox. Gmail is going to sort my mail for me. Most of the customization within Google can be done in the settings menu, so I'll show you how to do that. Again, here's your sprocket. Right, clicking on that drop-down menu next to the sprocket, you can choose the display density of your screen or how packed things appear. Further down, you can pick a theme or background if you would like. The settings option is where most of the good stuff is. Right, there are a lot of tabs here, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what I think you'd find most useful. All right, so here in this general tab, you just scroll down with me. I have enable undo send. I don't get a lot of seconds here, but I do have I did go with the highest setting. What this allows you to do is if you send an email, you can recall it if you can think to do it within that 30 seconds. So I know you think, I'm not going to recall an email within 30 seconds, but I've actually done it quite a bit. You might send an email and forgot to send the attachment, or you might realize you've left someone off the email, or you might see a spelling error right as you're about to send it. So you can actually recall your email if you want. I have conversation view on. What this does is it groups all emails in the same subject together. So if I email someone and they email me back, it just is as one email. If I like each email to come in as its own separate entity, I can turn my conversation view off. And you can see more. I can do a profile picture here. I can, you can customize your signature at the end of your email. You've got your vacation responder. Anytime you make a change, you just want to make sure you save those changes. Labels would be where you would customize the labels for your folders. We'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, inbox. I have a priority inbox. You probably have a default inbox. Doesn't matter which one you have. I like the priority inbox because it separates my email for me into these categories. Right, and then you have all these other ones too, but these are things that you might want to pursue on your own time. I really want to spend the rest of the segment talking about how you're going to organize your email and how you're going to find things. So just like in Drive, you have the same search feature available within Gmail. So you can, if you can't find an email from someone, you can just search their name, what words were in the email, did it have an attachment, they sent it sometime last week. So you can get pretty specific in terms of finding your emails. You also have the star feature. So if something is important to you and you want to make sure, maybe someone sent you an email and you have to do something and you don't want to lose track of it, you can put a star next to it. And just like in Drive, you do have a starred section. So all your starred emails will apply in this section. Even if you move that email out of your inbox and file it away in a folder, okay, it will still show in this section. Notice I have a bunch of different folders set up. These are actually called labels. My inbox looks pretty clean right now, and it is, but that doesn't mean that I don't have thousands of emails stored in my Gmail account. They're just pretty well organized into folders. So I'm going to open a message here. Let's go to this one. And you'll see there is a folder icon, and then there is a tag icon. This is a label, and this is a folder. The names of your folders will be the names of your labels. So if I label an email a certain category, then I can move it into a folder. So let's explain that. For the labels, I can pick a label that I already have, or I can just create a new one from here. I'm going to say tutorial videos. So I can create my own label, and if I want to, I can nest it under another label that I have. So maybe I'm going to put this in resources, and then I can create that label. And you'll see now this is what it's tagged as, and it's been labeled, but it did not move it into a folder. So if I want to actually move that, I have to click on this folder, and I'm going to find what I just created. So as you can see, the easiest thing to do if I'm looking at something, I wouldn't label it first and then move it. You can actually create the new folder and label directly from this icon. You can also drag and drop emails into folders as well. So you have that functionality. Right. Let's see, what else is going to be really important? Just quickly, if you go back into your settings, I can manage my labels here as well. I can remove a label, I can edit a label. So you can play around with that in there if there's something you didn't want. All right. One of the reasons that people's inboxes get so unmanageable is that there's a lot of emails, and we all get those emails and we don't really want them. They could be site subscriptions, marketing materials, social media alerts. It's easy to just delete these, but when you get dozens of these messages each day, they can pile up rather quickly. So let's talk about some of the solutions. You can mark the message as spam. I'm going to do that for this one. See this little octagon shape? I'm going to report this as spam. From here on out, I'm unsubscribing to it, and it's going to go into my spam folder. So that's one option. I can also set up filters. So I'm going to click on this message from CILC. I get these updates every single week. I don't need them, but sometimes they can be useful, or I might just want to have a record of them. So with filters, I can actually teach Gmail to automatically deal with these messages for me, and it saves me a lot of hassle. So in the drop-down arrow next to more, you'll see this option to filter messages like these. I'm going to click on that. And now anything that comes from support.cilc, I can get specific if I want, but I'm just going to say anything that comes from them. I'm going to create a filter with this search. And I have some options. What I'm going to want to do with this one, I'm going to want, I can either apply a label to it. I can say this is going to be, I'm going to look for my distance learning. I want these emails to automatically go into distance learning, and I want them to skip the inbox. I don't even want to see it in my inbox. It's just going to file it away for me. And, when I'm working on my distance learning resources, I can go check that folder and grab what I need. I can, maybe if I'm getting an email from a boss, I can choose to star an email. I can even choose to delete an email. So if I'm getting something from Reading Warehouse, I could just choose to delete it. Right, and when I'm ready, I just press create the filter. But let's say I have lots of different emails from CILC. Maybe I've let them pile up throughout the whole year, and I have 40 emails from them. I'm also going to apply this filter to 6 matching conversations so that I don't need to go through to my inbox for each one of those messages and do a filter. So I'm going to create this filter. All right, and so now anything from CILC, it's gone now from my inbox, and anything else that comes from that address is automatically going to go into my distance learning folder. All right, this will be really great if you're someone that has hundreds of emails from Schoology in your inbox. If you find filtering doesn't work as expected or it needs to be tweaked, you can go back into your settings You can use the filters tab. Show you really quick. And you can edit or delete different filters that you've set up. All right, and the last topic for the day is contacts. So next to mail, this drop-down arrow, see contacts. And I'm gonna go into my starred contacts, just so I'm not exposing different people's names that work here. All right, you can add a contact by just pressing this new contact button. All right, you can put in the email, the phone number. You can even pick what group they should go into. So, you know, a new teacher comes in or a new teacher in your department, you can add them, you know, type in their name, add them to a group. All right, you can also choose to, if you have a contact, maybe they no longer work here anymore or their email address changed, you can delete the contact if you want. You can click on their name, you can edit it, maybe their address changed. Right, but the most useful part is creating a contact group. So this would be really useful if you want to communicate with your students or a PLC group. Just click on new group. Okay, enter your group name. I'm going to say PLC group in here. Click OK. Right, and here it is, just appeared right here. To add to it, I click on it and I press this person button, and I'm just going to add anyone important that needs to be in my PLC group to it. Right, and then I add those people and they're in my group. So if I go back into my mail and I go to compose, instead of typing in those 3 email addresses to contact them, I can just type in PLC, and then there all 3 emails will be without me having to type them in. This would be really great if you're working with students, and instead of typing in all 25 emails from your class, you could just have a contact group called period 1 or period 2. And this makes it easy when you're sharing a Google Doc or a slideshow. Instead of sharing with each individual address, you can type in the name of the contact group. So that brings us to the end of our session today. I'm going to take a minute now, look at our shared Q&A, see if there were some questions that came in I didn't get a chance to answer. I have a question, shouldn't this in-service be 1.5 contact hours? Yes, it will be 1.5 contact hours, and after you take the session quiz, you will get a certificate that does reflect the 1.5 contact hours, because this was an hour and a half. The other 2 webinars later this week are only 1 hour. As we wrap up, I'd like to remind you that all the resources from the session can be found at bit.ly/CCSD002. Again, that's the page where you're going to find the video webinar. So if you want to re-watch this, review the material, you're going to also see a link to session resources, and you can view the live chat doc. There's only a couple questions in there. There is an evaluation, so if you don't mind taking a couple minutes, I think there's just 4 or 5 questions. It just gives me a little bit of feedback. And as soon as this webinar wraps up, give me a few minutes, and I'm going to post a link to the session quiz. It is 5 questions. You need to get 4 of them correct. And then if you do, you will earn a certificate of attendance for today's webinar. So as soon as you submit that quiz, you should get a certificate via email that you can turn into Human Resources. Again, I want to thank you very much for being here with me today and expanding your toolbox. I hope you gain the knowledge about what is possible using GSuite, and you feel a little bit more comfortable navigating through those Google apps. Reach out to me if you need more details or support. I look forward to having you join me again in future or other upcoming tech webinars. Take care.